Hello, it's Julie from Zephaniah. It's really good to be able to be with you in your school today, even if it is on the screen rather than in the room like I might normally visit. Normally, when I come and do assembly, I'd tell you a couple of stories, wouldn't I? So I thought I would do that again today. I don't know what you do if you ever find yourself feeling a bit stuck. Maybe you're not quite sure what to do next, how to sort a problem out, or quite what the next thing to do should be. You just feel stuck. Someone that I like to go to for advice if I feel stuck, one of the wise people I know, is my dad. And I remember when I was younger, we used to go out for walks quite a lot in the evenings, me and my dad and my brother. And I remember one time when I quite literally got stuck and needed my dad's help. We'd gone for a walk. It was a summer's evening. It had been a beautiful sunny day, so we thought an evening walk might be really nice in the countryside that we could get to from our house. And we set off and we went off for this walk, and we found ourselves in a field. Now, what you need to know is that although this was a really nice sunny day, it had actually been quite rainy in the few days leading up to our walk. And we were in this field, and we got to a part of the field and it was pretty muddy. And we sort of stopped and we looked at the mud in front of us and we looked around the field, and my dad and my brother said, we're either going to have to go through the mud or go back and then go around the very edge of the field, which might be less wet because it's at the top of the hill, but that will mean we'll have to walk right past those cows. Now, here is something you need to know about me. It's a little bit silly, but cows make me feel a bit nervous. I think it's because they're quite big. And it's quite silly because cows aren't really scary, but I particularly then used to get very nervous walking near cows. So I said, I don't want to go around the edge of the field. Let's just go through the mud. Just go through the mud, get it done. Nowhere near the cows. Thank you very much. And so they agreed. And we looked at the mud in front of us, and my brother went first and he kind of just walked right across, no problem. And then my dad went second and he just kind of walked straight across, no problem. And then I came to walk across the mud and I took a couple of steps and no problem, it was all going okay. And then I stopped and I kind of looked and I just found myself standing on this kind of rock in the middle of the mud and I didn't know where to go next. So I stopped. I felt stuck. And I looked at them and I went, I can't. They went, what do you mean you can't? I can't, I don't know where to go next. I don't know how to get across the mud. And they looked at me and they kind of said, right, okay, well, we'll help you. We'll give you directions and we'll get you across the mud. It'll be fine. And so they stood on the other side of the mud and I was in the middle of the patch of mud and they kind of called out directions to me to get across. They were like, right, put your foot there, now there, now there. And they were pointing as I walked across the mud. And I was following their directions and it was fine until I got to kind of the very middle of the big patch of mud. And I looked down. Instead of looking at them, I looked down. And I saw all the mud around me and I thought, I can't. And then I stopped listening to them. And then I took a wrong step and then my foot went into the mud and it disappeared. When I say it disappeared, I don't just mean like the toe of the boot disappeared. I mean my entire shoe and part of my sock sank into the thick, sticky mud. Partway up my leg, including my trousers. And I looked at them and I went, I'm stuck. And they did what any self-respecting father and brother would do, and they laughed at me. They did. They laughed. And when they'd finished laughing, they said, right, let's get you out. And they told me how to carefully pull my leg out of the mud without getting the other one stuck. And then they carefully, really slowly pointed one step at a time until they got me safely across the mud to where they were standing. At that point, I was so covered in thick, sticky mud all the way up my trouser leg, completely over my shoes, in my socks. I could feel it squelching between my toes. And we had to turn around and go back home so that I could clean myself up because I was too muddy to finish the walk. It reminded me, though, when that happened with me and my dad, it reminded me of this story about Jesus that happened to him and his friends. You might remember that one of the miracles Jesus did was to feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. This story happened just after that. There'd been a whole crowd of people around them. They'd got to the end of the day, they'd done the miracle of feeding them, and Jesus turned to his friends and he said, "You go down the hill, get in the boat and go across the lake. Go home. I'm going to make sure everyone goes home safely from here, and I'll catch you up later." And off his friends went. They got into their boat and they started to cross the lake. Jesus sent everyone home safely from the hill, and then he went up into the hillside to pray and spend some time on his own talking to God. By the time he came down off the hills, it was the middle of the night. The boat with his friends in had got about halfway across the lake. It was the middle of the night, sometime between 3 and 6 in the morning, so it was light enough for Jesus to see that his friends were struggling a bit in their boat against the wind and the waves. So he decided to go and help them. Now, at that time of night, in the half-grey light of dawn, imagine that you're sitting in a boat in the middle of a lake, and the wind and the waves are so strong you're finding it hard to make any progress. And you look up from the boat out over the lake, and you see a figure moving towards you. But you're in the middle of a lake and they don't have a boat. It's a ghost. Must be a ghost. They were terrified. Jesus noticed they were frightened and he called out to them. He said, "Be brave. It's me. Don't be afraid." And then Peter, we know Peter's the one who's a little bit mouthy and he talks before he thinks. And he looked out at the figure on the lake and he went, "Yeah, right, if it's you, Jesus, just tell me to come to you on the water and I'll walk on it too." And Jesus, who knew Peter as well as we did, if not better, looked Peter straight in the eye and said, "Come on then." Now, Peter had got himself in a tricky position because he'd just mouthed off in front of all of his friends saying, "Yeah, come on, tell me to walk on the water then." And Jesus has called his bluff and said, "Yeah, come on then." So now Peter has to go to the edge of the boat and put his legs over the side to walk on top of the waves to Jesus. Otherwise, he's going to lose face in front of all of his friends. So he gets to the edge of the boat, puts his leg out. I imagine at this point that he fixes his eyes on Jesus, and that is where he looks. A little bit like I was at first looking at my dad and brother when they were helping me across the patch of mud. And he puts down his legs and he starts to walk on the waves. Imagine what that must have felt like. He's walking on the water towards Jesus. But then after a few steps, he remembers the wind that is pulling at his clothes, and he feels the waves that are rumbling underneath his feet. And he thinks about what he's doing, and he's afraid, and he starts to sink. And then Jesus calls out to him, "Peter," and he takes his hand, and then Peter is okay again. Jesus turns to him and says, "Why is your faith so small? Didn't you believe that I'd keep you safe?" And then after they get back into the boat, all of Jesus' followers are amazed and they think truly he must be the Son of God. I don't know about you or what you do when you feel a bit stuck. Sometimes we feel like we can't really see the way ahead. We can't see very far into the distance. Maybe we've come up against a problem and we just don't know how to solve it. Maybe something really tricky is happening in our lives and we're not really sure how we're going to get out of it or how it's going to end. When things like that happen, I think we're a little bit like me, stuck in the mud, or Peter, when he felt the wind and the waves and he lost his faith. And we look around us and we don't quite know what to do. When that happens, here is my advice. When you feel stuck, look for the people around you, the people God puts there to help you. Who are the people you trust? It could be friends, teachers, your family, your parents or carers. Who are the people that God has put there to help you? And you know what? We don't always have to know the complete journey that we have to take. We don't always have to know the very end. Sometimes it's just about taking the next step, doing the next right thing. Often in assembly, we'll play a song, won't we? And we'll sing along. And I know it's not really possible to sing together at the moment, but in a minute you're going to watch a video of a song that's being performed by John Froud, my friend, which was originally written by a man called Chris Bowater, who is John's friend. And we may not be able to sing it together, but we can sign it together. So I'll teach you the signs. This is the words and the signs to the song, and you'll see other people signing it, so you can sign along with us. And these are the signs. The song is called Faithful God. So it goes faithful, put one hand on top of the other like that. Faithful just means He'll never let us down. Faithful God. Faithful God. All sufficient, that just means it's enough. We don't need any more. All sufficient one. I worship you. Shalom, my peace. And shalom just means peace. It's saying God is our peace. My strong deliverer. God will save us. I lift you up, faithful God. And as you listen to that song, if you're a person of faith and you believe in God, you might want to think of it as being like a prayer. And you might want to think and be thankful for the people that God puts around us that help us when we're stuck. And you might want to be thankful for God as well. And if you don't believe in God and you don't want to be thankful to God, then as you're signing, just think of all the people in your life, the people who are there to help you with what the next right thing is, to help you when you get stuck. I'll leave you with that song. Hopefully you'll be able to think of some people that help you out. And remember, next time you're stuck, just look for the people who are there to help to do the next step. And I'll see you again in another assembly soon.
Faithful God, faithful God, all sufficient one, I worship you. Shalom. My strong deliverer, I lift you up, faithful God, faithful God, faithful God. All sufficient Shalom, my peace, my strong deliverer. I lift you up, faithful faithful God, all sufficient one, I worship you. Shalom, my peace, my strong deliverer. I lift you